could you fill us in a little bit about what went on with the DVD premiere and the event at the club?
Well, essentially it was my old friend David Pack from Ambrosia. He's the voice of all the hits with Ambrosia. We've been friends ever since we worked together back in the mid '70s when I mixed their first album and produced their second. So we kind of alternated between his activities and mine. He played music from the Ambrosia days and all his hits, and some of the stuff he's been doing in recent times, in particular some Beach Boys and Beatle covers. And I talked about my beginnings, Dark Side of the Moon, and we played a lot of material in surround, which I think a lot of people were hearing for the first time in that particular audience.
Okay.
And then I showcased my latest venture, which is a DVD series called The Art and Science of Sound Recording. And that was, I think, very well received.
Now, is that going to be generally available, or is that just targeted?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's already available online in part. The website is artandscienceofsound.com.
Okay, I'll be sure to link that in here. Now, it's my experience. I'm in the computer programming field, and I travel in the same circle as a lot of other technical engineers. And it seems like in the technical engineering field, Alan Parsons is the rock god. I mean, we'll talk with people like, oh, I have all his albums, and the real geeky of us will say, oh yes, do you have Lady Hawk? Do you have Freudiana? And this is since college on. But there have been some discussions about your music that we've debated about for a long time, and this is giving us an opportunity here to clear up a couple of things about some older albums. And one of the things we debate on constantly is the meaning of the title for the I, Robot song, Genesis chapter 1, verse 32.
Oh yeah. Are you a religious man or not?
Halfway, sorta.
All right. Hold on one sec. Lisa, dog is eating the video. Oh, sorry, my dog was chewing away at something in the studio. Send him out. It's just, I mean, if you know the Bible at all, you will recognize that chapter and verse does not exist.
Right.
So it was designed to be, a little bit mysterious and, suggesting that there was an undisclosed verse that represented the future or the notion that God created the earth and then He created man, and then possibly man then created robots. So that was the thinking behind it.
I was correct then, because I just said that everything from this point on man created. Okay, I win that one. And also we've been trying over time to translate what sounds like Morse code in one of the, I believe it's an Eve track. Lucifer, yes, that's right. And we were trying to figure out just exactly what does that mean. Is there meaning?
Well, the one that's out front, the one that you hear very clearly is that's Eve spelled in Morse code.
Okay, simple enough.
But the sort of random Morse code that you hear at the beginning of the album, that was just taken straight off shortwave, and I have absolutely no idea what it says.
Oh, okay.
I think somebody somewhere once drew attention to that and did translate it, but I don't think it had any real bearing on.
It just sounded.
There was nothing particularly interesting embedded in there.
Okay, and last of these little bugging questions, the cover models on the Eve soundtrack, were they made up to look that way, or did they really have, did you really find people who had these scars and lesions?
Oh no, they were definitely made up.
They were made up.
They were totally beautiful models in every way. I only met one of them, but no, they were
I had that album for years before I realized somebody pointed out to me, hey, look behind the veil, and I'm like, oh gosh.
Oh really? You didn't notice?
I had the smaller picture. I had tapes.
Right.
Now, what you have?
We did get some negativity about that cover. Some people said it was anti-feminist.
Oh yeah, well, you can't win for losing sometimes. The Alan Parsons project had a very distinctive sound. I mean, it would be a new album, and within seconds you'd be like, oh yeah, that's an APP track. What do you consider the formula, I guess, for an Alan Parsons project song? I mean, what makes them distinct and yet part of the collective?
It's really interesting that people have said that, because I never consciously made any kind of attempt to give the project a sound. I mean, I think one could argue that I use the same philosophy in all my productions, not just for the APP. So I think people have said that Al Stewart sounds, that the stuff I did with Al Stewart was distinctly my sound as well. I don't hear it. I don't hear that. I just work on instinct and a series of automatic decisions.
Right.
So I'm very interested to know the answer to that question myself. I can't describe what it is that makes it sound like me.
Well, it seems like it was a sound that not only followed you into your solo work, but also followed Eric Wolfson into his solo work, because Freudiana is just, it has that APP sound right there in it almost instantly.
Well, yeah, Freudiana was Eric and I working together in the same conditions as everything else. I mean, just because it wasn't called the Alan Parsons Project, it didn't make it any less. I mean, it started life as an Alan Parsons Project. It was only when the notion that it would hit the theatre stage that the title changed.
Okay.
It was the Alan Parsons Project to start with. It would have been the whatever it was, the 10th album. It would have been the album after Gaudi.
Okay, that's interesting trivia to know. Obviously, I guess there won't be any more Alan Parsons projects per se in the future. Sadly, Eric Wolfson passed this past December, and I didn't know if you had any comment on that.
Only that it was, very, very, very sudden news, very unexpected. I was on tour in Germany at the time, and made an announcement to a large audience of people in Mannheim who were clearly shocked as well.
Because you're both relatively young and healthy people.
Sorry?
Because you're both relatively young and healthy people, and just
relatively.
Yeah.
He had been ill. He'd had a fight with cancer for probably some 5 years, I believe. But he very bravely never made that public. He just kept it to himself and his family, and I knew, but he'd asked me to not spread the word.
I understand. You've made such groundbreaking strides in the sound engineering field and sound mixing. And I wonder if you have any comment on musicians today, because it seems like there's a lot of criticism that today's artists rely too heavily on sound engineering rather than vocal talent to make themselves sound good.
Well, I think you've got a point there. It's you can if you're a singer, you can sing a song 2 or 3 times, and it's pretty likely that the cutting and pasting and auto-tuning, you're going to be able to get it sounding pretty good, which of course wasn't the case originally.
No, in fact, it was when I was in college, and I had heard the Alan Parsons top 40 songs before I got to college, but I really hadn't been introduced to the group directly until Stereotomy. And I was telling my friends here, I can't wait to see these guys in concert. And they're like, you'll never see Alan Parsons in concert. There's so much mixing and sounding here. When did you finally you were able to finally do live concerts, though?
It was a decision we made after we'd completed the first of the solo albums, Try Anything Once, and the band that played on that album were, you know, two of the guys who had played on virtually everything else with the project. It was Ian Benson and Stuart Elliott, and also Andrew Powell. Andrew Powell was heavily involved in Try Anything Once as well. And we just wanted to give the album every possible chance of success. So we decided to take it out, you know, to put a band together and put it on the road. The difficulty in the past had always been, what do I do? You know, the record producer is you know, a fairly dark figure in a live performance situation. But you know, I dusted off my guitar and you know, relearned my three chords, and you know, I managed to pull it off.
Now you mentioned last time I called to set this interview up that you were preparing for 3 or 4 shows coming up here soon. Are these listed on your website, or can you tell us where they're at?
They will be. Anything that's confirmed will be on the website. But we've got a confirmed show in Paris in June. We've got some confirmed shows in Holland in December, and we've got one confirmed show in Monterrey, Mexico, in middle of May.
Oh, the U.S. is out of luck, isn't it?
Well, I think it's largely economic reasons. You know, the promoters are just not ready to make the investment. You know, they'll play safe.
Okay.
And get acts that they've worked with before and stuff. But you know, I'm not saying it's a lost cause. I mean, and you know, homegrown dates tend to happen at quite short notice. So I'm pretty confident we'll be doing something in the summer.
All right. Well,
where are you speaking from?
I'm from St. Louis.
St. Louis. All right.
So we'd love to have you here.
All right.
My CD player has worn a groove in my Valid Path, and I'm just wondering if you have a new CD coming out anytime. You have any plans for another release?
Well, there's a new song which I wrote for the Art and Science Project, which is called All Our Yesterdays, and that'll be out online quite soon. And it's you know, the interesting thing for anybody who's interested is that you see the track pretty much developing in the studio from the earliest stages to the final mix.
All right.
So that, and you know, I think it turned out pretty well. And one day that song will be part of an album. But for the moment, it's just a one-off single release. But it's there essentially to promote the DVD series.
Fantastic. All right, I'm wrapping up here. I just had one person wanted me to ask you if you were surprised at all by your name being dropped in the Austin Powers movie as one of Dr. Evil's creations.
It was a surprise. I knew nothing about it, and it was already in theaters before I knew about it. But I saw it as a huge compliment. I was very, very touched by the fact that